The Ryan Ries Show from Southern California. This is The Ryan Ries Show. Post your questions using @Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Are you ready?
All right. I am excited for this show tonight. So I'm actually currently been traveling to Asia, and now I'm in the Philippines for this particular show. And I'm actually at Calvary Chapel, Tagaytay, with Pastor Tony Reyes, who's in studio. As you can see him if you're watching YouTube right now, but if you're on the radio stations, we are here, and you are a native to the Philippines.
That's right.
That's awesome. So look, I have done hundreds of shows over the last 6 years, and I have never done a church planting show. And I've literally been trying to do a church planting show for a couple years now, and everyone that I want to book to get into the studio is out of town church planting. And now here I am in the Philippines with a church planter, you. So I said, you know what? We brought our radio studio stuff. Let's get the show. You know, just over the last, just for the listeners, over the last 3 days, we've been out here in the Philippines. We came here on a mission to bring the Kill the Noise to the schools.
That's right.
Now, when I met you, we were back in probably like 3 months ago. We were down at a conference down in Peru,
right,
with Calvary Chapel Trujillo, with all those guys down there. And we met backstage because you were there to present, to talk about church planting,
yes,
right? I didn't even know that because our interactions was so quick,
right?
Just because due to the conference, there were so many people and all that stuff. But you said, hey, Ryan, I love what you guys are doing. I would love to get you to the Philippines, but I have no connections to the schools. And I said, awesome. That's pretty much everyone's reaction when we talk about this. And I said, well, you know what? If God wants us to go to the Philippines, he will, where God guides, God provides. That's kind of been a thing within the Calvary Chapel movement that we've been taught through Chuck Smith. And you know what? I don't just say it because it's taught to us. It's literally true. Where God guides, God provides. That's how you know you aren't forcing anything. So they went back to the Philippines from Lima, Peru. And a couple weeks later, I got a call from him, or text saying, hey, call me. I got good news. I met with him, and basically he ended up in a meeting with the mayor of one of the mayors here in the city, and the doors, long story short, opened up for us to go into the schools. So then we prayed that God would provide financially. We ended up getting an anonymous check for $5,000, which covered a couple flights, hotels, and food. And now here we are, and the schools have opened up, and we are seeing kids running to Jesus.
Amen. Amen.
Now, I'm going to get you going here in a minute, but I do want to just kind of paint the picture here of what's going on in the Philippines, just from what I know, but we're going to really impact this whole thing. But this is the gay capital of the world, which Tony told me about. And we see, like, we were in the school the other day, and we saw probably like, you said there's like 20% of the kids that look.
Seems like it.
I'm seeing a lot of it as well. So what you're seeing is true. But here we are, and the gospel's going forth, and they're totally open. Why? Because kids are the same around the world. Wherever you go, if I'm in Australia, if I'm in Peru, if I'm in America, LA, New York, England, kids are the same. Why? Because they're watching the screen time 6 to 11 hours a day. They're watching the same stuff. They're experiencing the same stuff. And guess what they're watching? Garbage in your body, garbage out. Jesus talks about some scripture that says about that. It's not what goes in and what comes out of your heart, but what you're watching, the eyes are light to the body. What you're putting in, it ends up coming out. And we are seeing kids get saved, and that's leading up to this conversation. Why is it important to have church plants? Because there is a great need. People globally are hungry for the gospel, and the world is massive, and there's not enough churches, believe it or not. And you might be living in a Tennessee, you might be in LA where there's churches all over, mega churches. It's not like that when you leave your little bubble. We need churches that need to be global. So Tony, let's get into this now that they kind of know the premises of this conversation. Where'd you grow up in the Philippines? Were you grew up in this city or?
No, I grew up in Manila.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about that growing up, and I know that you ended up leaving here and going to America. What was that process?
Well, I grew up Catholic. I went to an all-boys Catholic school since first grade all the way through high school. I graduated there. And in college, I went to a Catholic university in Manila. And after graduation, I went to the U.S. for my first job. But it was during my college years that I met the Lord Jesus.
So,
yes.
interesting enough, there's a lot of Catholicism here, right? In the
Yes.
Philippines?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Probably like 85% or around that.
Right. So they grew up with religion around them. That's what's good about when you talk about Jesus and a relationship. Did you find Jesus in America?
No, I found
Here.
him in college here in Manila.
Oh, okay. So then what led you to leave here and go to America?
Well, I had a petition from my parents to go and immigrate to the United States.
Okay.
So right after finishing college, I went to the United States. I worked for a year.
Okay.
And then God called me to come back to the Philippines, and I started my my education for the ministry
Here.
in Manila, in the Philippines for a year, and then went back to the States for further training for the
Oh,
ministry.
really?
Yes.
So where'd you end up planting yourself when you went back for the training in America?
Well, New York State. I got married in 1988, and my wife and I lived in New York State, and I planted my first church in 1990, 2 years after.
What was that? Was that a Calvary Chapel or a different denomination?
No, I only got connected with Calvary Chapel around 2009.
2009.
Yes,
Got
in
it.
Old Bridge, Calvary Chapel, Old Bridge, New Jersey.
Awesome. Okay, so now, what was the point? Because I was talking to your wife yesterday, and you guys were talking with your kids, and everyone like, yeah, we're gonna be here forever. Like, this is kind of where we're gonna be. And then there was a change of heart of like, hey, well, I think we're actually gonna be going now to the Philippines, because the rest of your family, your kids are growing up there in America.
Yes.
So what was some confirmations that kind of led you to knowing that you need to go to the Philippines?
Okay, that's a great question because that's going to lead us into church planting.
Yes.
When we were in the United States, I had a family there. My wife was working and she's making like six figures, and I had a little business, and we were serving at Old Bridge, Calvary Chapel, Old Bridge. I was an elder there, and life was good. We had our own house. We had our kids with us.
Yeah.
4 children, but God's call. God was calling me back to the Philippines. I knew that for sure, and we made that big step in 2016, January. Cutting the long story short.
Yeah.
We left everything. We flew to the Philippines. Just my wife and I. We left all our kids. We sold our house. Sometime later, and my youngest kid was just in college, so we could leave. Just my wife and I. And we landed at a place called Talisay, Batangas. We were just there last Thursday, Friday.
Oh, yeah.
These past 2 days.
Right.
We didn't know a single person when we landed, and God had given us previously a place there, just a lot, and we just overgrown weeds.
Like
And
literally like over just all trees and weeds. Big lot.
That's it. Like you saw there, you were there yesterday, and you saw what was around it, still like all vacant property. That was our place when we arrived.
Yeah.
But now you saw how
Yeah.
beautiful.
So this is what I love about this how you're going to talk about this. You guys stepped out. You received a lot. So where God guides, God provides,
Amen.
right? Show up, don't know anyone, and you get a lot on the hill, which actually is an amazing location as well, like the view and everything. But then what was the process? Because you have no money and you're coming to church plant and you got a lot and you don't know anyone. So that's, you're kind of don't got much going on.
Yeah, I can relate to Abraham when God
Yeah.
called him to leave his country and come to a place
Yep.
which he didn't really know, and he just had the faith to obey. And it was kind of like my story. I knew God was calling us back to the Philippines. God had provided a lot. We just trusted the Lord. That God would provide, to fulfill the vision that He had given me, which was to really train church planters. That's
Yeah.
all I knew. Like Abraham, all he knew was that God was calling him, and he was going to be the father of many nations. All I knew was that God was calling us to come back to the Philippines, and we would be training church planters. I didn't know how that would look like, but God, led me step by step. So in 2016. I got connected around June, June or July, to a friend of mine who told me about Dynamic Church Planting International, which had an annual conference in the Philippines. And he said, you should attend this conference, And so I flew in from the United States on the first day of the conference. I went to the conference. I was late. They said, you can't come in. You're late. You're not registered. I just happened to know the owner of the place, and so he got me in. And so I attended the first module of Dynamic Church Planting International, and our world zone leader for DCPI, or Dynamic Church Planting International, Dr. John Bond from Australia. He talked to me. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm going to start a church planting school. And he said, what's your curriculum? I said, I don't know yet. And he said, why don't you just use our curriculum?
Oh,
we
right.
have
They already have
7
it.
modules. We have 7 modules. You're attending the first module, which is a 3-day module.
Right.
So just you can do it. We're offering you giving you the authority to use our curriculum.
Wow.
And I thought about it for about maybe 5-10 minutes, and I said, well, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of the module, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was being given the privilege to use all modules in our school that it's not yet existing, but
Yeah.
I was planning.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard thing to actually kind of assemble all that. I mean, these guys have been doing it for a long time.
For many years.
Exactly.
At that point, about maybe 25 years.
Yeah, no brainers. I love it. Okay, so you got that, but then how did you actually develop the land to create? Is that what's next in the story? Is developing the land to create the school? Because you got the curriculum,
Right.
you got the lot,
Right.
but you got no money,
Right.
and you got to make a building.
Right. So the first thing I did, on the vacant lot was, just start building. And I knew a little bit about building, and I hired some workers, and I started building, the bathroom, and then putting a room on top of the bathroom for my wife and I. And so I asked help from our church, Calvary Chapel, Old Bridge, and to send some guys to help. And we had our first mission trip in October 2016.
Yeah.
And then we had 4 other mission trips.
Yeah.
And that really helped us, gave us a boost,
Yeah.
and so God provided, initially in that way for our building.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but initially I was just using my own funds,
Yeah.
to build us a little room,
Yeah. No, that's amazing. But I've seen, with our church too, we've done several trips down to Columbia to build a mission, and it takes a lot of work, and people come and donate their time, which is also about church planning as well.
Yes.
You got this other guys that are like, well, I can't go and live in Philippines or Africa, but I could go on a 2-week trip or a week, and I could go build what they need.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Very crucial.
Yeah.
So then you built a compound, and then what is next in the church planning is being able to, you got to get people to come.
Right.
How'd you recruit people?
So after I started attending the DCPI modules, God gave me a vision. It started forming the vision in my mind of what the school would look like.
Right.
And so in my mind, I wanted all 7 modules to be our curriculum. And I wanted to do that, all 7 modules, within 3 months in one location. It has never been done in the 25 years or so history of Dynamic Church Planting at that point. And so it was a unique vision, but that's what God was calling me. And so I traveled all over the Philippines for several months just to get all the modules, so I would be able to have all the curriculum and be able to teach it. It got certified, but it wasn't until October 2018, so about 2 years.
Right.
It took me 2 years to build a facility that we could use, and then so a week before we started in October 2018, we had 0 students. So people were telling me, who's going to be your student? You have nothing.
Yeah.
I said, God's going to send them.
Yeah.
And when we started our first day, we had 18 church planters.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's how we started.
That's a big, for people that start up schools of ministry.
It was my wife and I who taught.
That's amazing. So then how long's the whole program to church plant? For someone that's student, do they live on campus?
Yeah, they don't live in campus. These are all mostly pastors already.
Yeah.
Who wanted to do church planting.
Learn how to multiply, right?
Learn how to multiply.
Okay.
So I had 18 of them, and I had them for the first class, which was 3 days, right? And then so they knew that this was a 7-module, course over 3 months, and we were going to do this twice a year. So we had like the first class, second class in 1 year. And so long story short, despite the pandemic, we have done like 6 classes. 6 classes.
That's amazing.
So out of those 6 classes, we have and we've been training as well. And of course, because the vision is that those we train, we tell them, and we want to make sure that they do the same thing, that they would go and train other church planters,
Right.
who will train other church planters. On top of, they would go and plant churches that will plant churches that will plant churches. By the way, the name of our ministry is 222 Church Multiplication Network. I forgot to because that's everything flows from that name.
Right.
God had given me that name because that's what He wanted us to do. He wanted us to multiply churches.
Yeah,
so
it's
222 comes from 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 2, where Paul says to his son in the faith, Timothy, the things you have learned from me among many witnesses, these things commit to faithful men who will be able to teach or train others also. So it's like 4 generations of disciple making, beginning with Paul to Timothy, to faithful men, and then to others.
Right.
And God told me before we even left the United States that I'm going to use this principle of multiplication of disciples. I'm going to use it in your life, in your ministry, to multiply churches. I didn't know what that meant, but that's what,
amazing.
that's what God.
I love that,
and that's why I took the name 222, trusting that God will multiply churches. At that point, I didn't know, anything. I had no idea what He was going to do, and so we did it. We trained the first batch. We told them to do the same thing, and of course, not all of them did it. Only a few really did it. But even with those few, in 4.5 years that we've been doing this, we have trained over 5,000 church planters.
That is insane. That is amazing. Okay, so
because of the multiplication, not
right.
because of
shoot.
me.
Yes, exactly.
And as a result of all these trainings, we have helped plant over 200 churches.
Wow, and is that global? Is that Philippines or?
Well, mostly Philippines, but we have planted the first Calvary Chapel in Bangladesh, the country of Bangladesh.
Okay.
We have a trainer there, and then we have a training center in Dhaka in Bangladesh.
So now there's gonna be multiplication.
Yes, in
that
Bangladesh.
is so amazing. And this is how these churches start. You guys, they live with a little church plant, and then it grows, and then it develops, and you multiply, and that's how you spread the gospel to the ends of the earth. Jesus says, "You will be my witnesses, telling people about me everywhere to the ends of the earth," and that's exactly what's happening. So, okay, give us. Let's talk a little bit more about this curriculum. So you have students going there now. How do you let people know about this? How can people find out about your church plant, and how can they get involved? Or
right. We just really promote by word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
And then
Okay.
I do a screening, and I ask them for an application.
Right.
And I do a personal interview. Make sure that they are church planters, that they're called to become church planters.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah.
With someone who is not even called as a church planter.
I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so so we're gonna talk to someone that doesn't know anything about this. Okay, so what is the qualifications? Where does someone need to be in their relationship with Christ to be able to get involved and go after church planting?
Well, first of all, of course,
ready.
he's got to be a Christian, obviously, and then he's got to have a call to the ministry. And if you're called to ministry, you know it. You know that you're called to the ministry. And so I just ask for discernment, when I talk to people, from God, if they're really called, and I just take a chance with them.
I want to unpack that. How, speaking to people that are listening now, how would one know that they're called? Because there's a lot of people that they want to follow God, as far as they're like, God, use my life for whatever. And maybe they're being called right now. Maybe they're getting those promptings from the Holy Spirit. Maybe things are happening, but they don't actually know that they're being called. They just feel like, I don't know, I feel maybe emotional towards it.
Yes.
How does one know, or you can talk about how you knew that you were called, and what happened, what things kind of lined up with God that you knew?
I love your question, because I actually have, my own, way of knowing. And I say this to everybody who attends our trainings. And I tell them that if you're here in this training, you are called. Okay. How do I know that you're called? If you're in our training, it's because Jesus said the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. You're not going to be, God's not going to bring you here out of the millions of people in the world, out of the millions of Christians in the world. And you're going to be here, and you're going to receive training for church planting, and you're not called. The only way that you're not going to be a church planter, or by the way, being a church planter doesn't mean that you're the one that's actually going to be the pastor or you're going to be the lead.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, church planting cannot happen without a team.
Right. Yeah.
You can't just be a one-man band. You cannot.
Yeah.
You need a lot of people, to support you.
Yeah.
Just like you have a team. You
Absolutely.
can't be doing this by
No.
yourself. It's just like church planting.
Exactly.
And so, I tell them, you don't have to be the lead pastor, but you could be the worship leader. You could be the children's ministry leader. You could be just a supporter financially in prayer. But you're part of the team, and if you're here in this training, you are it. This is not an accident. I tell them, there's a harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. It's not an accident that you're here. God's called you.
That is huge. I literally never knew. I thought you had to have be a pastor, teaching pastor, to be able to go church plant, because you would be the guy that would be teaching. But it could be anyone, and the team comes together to actually do the church plant. That is amazing. That is amazing. My mind is blown right now. Okay, so now, how did you know? So you just explained to be called, but how did you know that you were called? What was it? How did God confirm to know that you're like, I need to go to the Philippines and I need to start this, and I don't know anyone there? Because that is huge. I know by faith, but there had to be some confirmation.
I love that question, because I can tell you exactly how I know for sure. Jesus gave the Great Commission, and we all know the Great Commission is go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them everything I've commanded you, and I will be with you always to the end of the age, right? So all Christians are called to make disciples. Okay, so that's that is absolutely clear. And I'm the type of person that always asks myself, how can I be the most effective? How can I do this most effectively, possible? And that is, how do I make disciples the most effective way possible? That's how my mind operates. And so God just told me, from the Word of God, it's through church planting. Because when you plant a church in an area where there is no church, then you grow disciples. It's not just one person. You're going to make multiple disciples, and those disciples obviously will be able to make more disciples compared to just one person. And so a church in an area, in a location where there's no church, is the most effective way to fulfill the Great Commission. And we're called to make disciples of all nations. So that means, every person on earth must hear the gospel. And the best way for that to happen is for every community to have a church in the Philippines. Right. And this is part of how I know. And I didn't know the exact statistics, but I knew that the Philippines is a Catholic country, and there's a lot of places where churches are needed. And now I know that statistically we have 42,000 villages we call barangays. Right?
Oh yeah, that's what.
And half of that, about 20,000, a little less than half, do not have a Christian church.
That's
amazing. Those are in Muslim areas, many of them.
Right.
And we have Muslim areas in the Philippines. And so God has, there's a big work in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And this is why I know that, I'm in the right place to multiply trainings that will multiply church planters, that will multiply churches planted. That's just the way I see it.
I was just thinking, because this morning when I woke up, I knew that we were going to be doing an interview, and I was thinking about, man, if there's someone that is called to be in a church, to do a church plant, and now actually opening it up more, it's not just a pastor. It's like, it could be an evangelist, it could be a worship leader, it could be someone that wants to just come down and fund it and build a team, or whatever, whoever, right? Whosoever. The Philippines is ripe.
Amen.
I mean, if you really want to get into church planting and be in a place where you could actually have conversations with people about God, and they're open and they're responding and they're actually giving their life to Christ, like, this is the place that you've seen it. It's amazing. It's just amazing. So I would definitely look into me. This is my first time actually being in the Philippines doing ministry. I came here a long time ago with my dad, and he was showing his film back here back in the day. But me being here just for a few days and being in the public school system with the non-Christian kids, they are ripe for it. So I would highly consider that. Okay, cool. So you've talked about the call. You've talked about what qualifies you to want to be a church plant. Because you need to make sure, and I want to kind of hone in on this. You need to make sure before you go after to get involved in ministry that you count the cost. Jesus talks about counting the cost is like there are costs involved. Like, I mean, here you left your college kids in America because you were called, and they understand that God called you to this place that needs God desperately, and even like with you bring your family, maybe you might even be taking your family out of the country, from a different country to another country. There's cost, and you want to make sure that you know what you're getting into. You're going to see God move. It's going to be awesome, but also you got to count the cost because it's going to be a journey. It's going to be ups and downs, like a roller coaster, and maybe you can kind of speak into some of the obstacles, the highs and the lows of church planning, of you seeing God move, and then also just some of the things that have been, that you had to work through doing this stuff,
Sure. I think the story that my wife shares every now and then really paints the picture. We were in the plane coming here to the Philippines the first time, for good. That was January 2016. And my wife says, that while we were in the plane, she looks at me, and I was, fast asleep on the plane. But she was crying because we had left our children. We had left everything. And she was thinking, how could this guy be, so peaceful and asleep, and I'm here a wreck, and I left everything. I left my children. Yeah. And so she realized that, we were being called by God. That's the cost. That's the cost that we had to pay. And so, but the cost doesn't stop there. It's, we have a saying in Dynamic Church Planting International that if you're a church planter, you are in trouble. You have a big target behind your back, and the devil always tries to hit your bullseye. Always, constantly. So if you're a church planter, you are in trouble. It costs a lot. It costs daily a lot.
In ministry, like even with myself, because I'm an evangelist and I travel and stuff, and like God uses me on the road. Like that God uses me on the Great Commission, right? Which is like church planting, basically, right? We go out, we get it done, but also that I'm pulled away from my family as well. Yes. So it's harder too, because my family's at home, my wife, my kids. So that but these are part of the cost. And my wife goes, I don't understand, because she used to travel all over the place, for her work, all over the globe, because she used to manage some professional athletes. But I said, and I used to too, when I used to work in the skateboard industry, travel. But it's so different now, traveling just to do like events and speak at conferences or, do presentations or whatever, versus when you're actually showing up and you're preaching the gospel and people are giving their life to Christ, which is taking them from one side of eternity and placing them on the other. Huge difference. That's why I travel 20 hours to get to the Philippines. Yeah. Because, all of us were sitting on the plane, and we know when we get there, kids are going to give their life to Christ. Amen. Kids are depressed or not going to be depressed. People that have anxiety, God's going to touch people's lives and deliver them immediately. He's going to walk through it with them. But nevertheless, they're going to hear about a relationship with Jesus. And that's why we count the cost, because we know God is good and what he's going to do. And we're going to be going to a break right now. So I want to encourage you guys, go to my YouTube channel, Ryan Ries Official. Subscribe, and you will get all the past shows. I think we have like 6 to 7 years of shows of, all kinds of different people that I interview globally. And also go to thewhosoevers.com. And if you want to book us to come out to go bring the Great Commission, to come accent your church and do ministry in the streets, do ministry in your church. That's what we do, and we work with all different churches all around the world. Whenever, however, just contact us at the Whosoevers, and we'll get back to you and let you know our earliest convenience. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. I have Pastor Tony Reyes out here in the Philippines from Calvary Chapel, Tagaytay. Tagaytay.
More of The Ryan Ries Show. Coming up, post your questions at Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, and or Facebook. Now, back to The Ryan Ries Show.
Alrighty, we are back. And just for you guys tuning in, I am actually in the Philippines, in Tagaytay, Philippines, at Calvary Chapel, Tagaytay, with Pastor Tony Reyes. I met him in Peru, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, at a missions conference with Calvary Chapel at Trujillo. We talked about coming out here. We prayed. God opened the doors. Boom, here we are invading the public school system. And it's like we entered a revival. Everyone's getting saved. It's amazing. But the first half, the first half of the show, we were talking about he's a church planter out here in Tagaytay, and you guys are able to come out and be a part. They've planted over 5,000 churches.
We train over 5,000 church planters and planted over 200 churches in 4.5 years.
There it is right there. So if you guys are interested, you could definitely look them up and check it out. But now the second half, we want to get into also within this church they have here. They have CBI, which is Calvary Bible Institute. Yes. And you know what? I have not interviewed anyone about CBI either. Oh. So this is why I want to use this opportunity to just you are the representative for the church plant and the CBI on my show in 6 years.
Wow.
So
what an honor.
Let's so first of all, what is Calvary Chapel Calvary Bible Institute? What is it? What is it?
Well, it is a 1-year Bible Institute, and let me tell you how I got started. It's been in my heart to start a Bible Institute here in our church, Calvary Chapel, Tagaytay City.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how. I didn't know where to start. And so last year, May, I was at the East Coast Pastors Conference in Philly, and I met Pastor Jarrell Hagerman, who started CBI. And it started in California, Joshua Springs, Joshua Tree. And so I told him, I want to start a Bible Institute. Can you help me? And it's funny because he said, I'm helping Hawaii. I'm helping this and that. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's pray about it.
Yeah.
And so shortly, a few minutes after that, I got to speak, address the whole thing. It was the missions conference, and for like 5 minutes. Then afterwards, he comes up to me and says, I'm going to help you. And so we sit down over lunch, and he says, I'm going to help you. Long story short, after 8 months, we started Calvary Bible Institute just this past January.
Amazing.
And Calvary Bible Institute basically is a very simple program. We go through the whole Bible, all the books of the Bible, from cover to cover, from verse by verse.
Teaching it
verse by verse to our students. Besides other ministry subjects and skills, that we teach our students, including church planting. We go through all that we've discussed earlier, all 7 modules of Dynamic Church Planting International.
Within the program?
Within the program.
Wow.
And not only that, I tell our students, at least our students, this is not for all CBIs, by the way. Each CBI, by the way, is different.
Right.
Right now, I think there's over 10 CBIs all around the world. And our CBI is just because we have this passion for church planting. And so I tell them, when you graduate, you'll be church planters. Either you'll be a lead church planter, or you'll be support. You'll be a part of a team, because by the time they graduate, we would have started planting a church. So we now have a project to plant a church. Actually, we're going there on Monday. That's our target, at a place called Anilao and Tingloy Island, where right now there's an oil spill. But God is using that for us to be able to help them.
So we're going there actually. That's going to be the next church plant that you're looking for. So we're going into the schools.
Yes.
And we're going to start there by talking to the students about Jesus, and then praying that next a church plant can happen.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I call it
it's exciting.
Sowing the seeds. We're going to be sowing seeds.
Yep.
And then that's going to we'll be praying that it will end up in an actual church.
That's amazing. Okay, let's get to back to CBI as well, because we know that church planting is part of that program, which is phenomenal as well. That's awesome. Now, when they would come in, so a student would come for, like, what is it, 10 months? Is it a year?
Yes, it's 10 months. So we started mid-January. We were so honored to have the founder, Pastor Joel Hagerman, here as our first teacher to open us up. And we have many different different Calvary Chapel pastors teaching, coming from the United States, all over the world, coming here to teach for a week or 2 weeks.
Right.
So that's the program. And whenever we don't have an invited speaker or teacher, I teach. And so far, we've been going through many books already. And so it's a 10-month program, like I said. Yeah. And it's a live-in program.
Live-in, right.
Live-in program. All students live in the campus. When we don't have our own, we're just renting out different facilities. Also, very unique about this as well is that all the students rotate in all of the ministries of our church. We're a small church, but we have a lot of ministries. And so every 2 months, they rotate. And the first month, they get to assist the leader of the ministry, be it worship ministry or children's ministry. And then the second month, they get to lead the ministry.
So they're getting the hands-on training.
Yes.
You're learning scriptures, but then you're getting the hands-on training.
Yes.
They shadow, and then they lead.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing. Also, the other thing is when they're in the classroom, like how does it work with the teaching? How many hours a day are they studying? Like what's a day look like, I guess?
Yeah, the day starts for them at 6 a.m., where all of them gather here in our classroom, which is also our sanctuary, and they listen to the audio Bible. So for the 10 months, they would have listened through the whole Bible. So that's one way that we're sure they have listened through the whole Bible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then, they have their breakfast, and then they come back here promptly at 8 o'clock. I'm very strict with time. And we start our classes from 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
And that's the academic classes. In the afternoons, they do all their other assignments. Whatever books of the Bible we do not cover in class, they would listen to the Chuck Smith tracks.
Right.
So that this way they get to study all of the books of the Bible.
That's amazing.
As in-depth as possible.
Awesome. I got a chance to go through I finally finished the whole C3000 series.
Right.
And I'm halfway through
Right.
But I got all locked up in because he has all the in-depths too.
Yes.
And I want to plug this for you listeners. Go ahead and check out. It's called The Word for Today, and it's an app. And as all of the founder of Calvary Chapel, all of his Bible studies are all there from different years of him going through the Bible in depth and all topical and just it's awesomeness. Get there, Yeah.
So on weekends, they again in the afternoons. Besides those, they start their own Bible study. That's one thing that they have to do. They start their own one-on-one discipleship with a person they lead to the Lord. They do evangelism as a lifestyle. I asked them to meet at least one new person that they don't know every day, so 5 a week.
That's amazing.
And I asked them to meet at least 5 people in our church every week, so this way they get to learn how to shepherd people and encourage people. And they have to start their own small group Bible study. And this is like basic. If you want to be in ministry, that's what we do. We start Bible studies.
Right.
We have to learn that now. And so a lot of these practical things.
Yeah.
And just in the last 2 months, we've gone through like 4 mission trips. And most people. I mean, I've been through seminary. I've never had one mission trip. I didn't learn a thing about church planting. I didn't learn a thing about
Yeah.
So, but here in 2 months, they've done like more than I've gone through my seminaries for years.
That's awesome.
We're very hands-on.
And you know what? That's what people want. I want that.
Yeah.
I love the hands-on doing it. And you know what the model is? It's the Jesus model.
Amen.
Right? Jesus called them. I love I love the biblical stuff. Like, you see what Jesus did. Jesus called them. He walked with them, and he taught them the word. You guys they're here. They're going through the books of the Bible. He taught the disciples the word, and he showed them hands-on how to do it. And they made mistakes, and he just kept showing them. And they did it for 3 years. And this is only a 1-year training.
Amen. Can I tell you a story about a couple who are students in our...
Yeah.
You know them, Anthony and Kate.
Yeah.
They're from New Jersey. They're as white as can be.
Yeah.
And I met them.
Italians.
Italians and some other, I guess, Irish. I met them and they heard me speak at one of the breakfast. And then And they said, can we talk to you? And so we gathered for breakfast, and they said, we want to be God. We feel God's calling us to be missionaries, right? And so we would just want to know what it looks like. How did it? How does it look like to be a missionary? And I said to them, I think the best way, if you're being called as a missionary, you need to be trained. And the best thing that I can think of is I want to invite you to be students at the Bible Institute that we're starting. And at that point, we haven't started the Bible Institute. Because if you come over to the Philippines and study at our Bible Institute, not only will you experience the cross-cultural, immersion that all missionaries, all who want to be missionaries in a cross-cultural environment need, to go through, but you'll also get your training, in Bible. You're going to go through the whole Bible and all different ministries and practical skills. It's a complete training. And after the 1 year, you'll be prepared, whatever God's calling you. This is our vision for our school, is that whatever God's calling the student to be, either as a church planter, church worker, missionary, pastor, they will be prepared.
Yeah.
And of course, it's being in ministry is a lifetime education anyway. So, but you can go out and start.
It's a good start.
Yes.
It's definitely a good start. It's because you see a lot of people that they go to, Bible college or seminary, and I mean, I can't tell you how many guys I know that went through seminary or Bible college, and they haven't done anything with it.
No.
They haven't done anything with it, and it's that practical, hands-on learning and doing. You get a feel for it, so when you graduate, you're not like, well, what do I do?
Yeah,
and it's.
exactly.
I'm telling you right now, it's a huge difference. For me, I when I got involved in ministry, I just started going through the Bible studies of Chuck Smith, and then, I had these small little doors that opened to speak at a rehab here and there with 3 people, 5 people, whatever. It wasn't like this big glamorous, stages and big churches. It wasn't like that at all. It was very low key, me just sharing my faith. But I learned how to do it practically, and I saw and I kind of tagged along with people, and then it just kind of grew from there. But there's no way I would have sat in a seminary or a Bible college for 4 years. I could see a program for 1 year, committing to that, learning and doing. I could have seen that, but there was nothing like that I knew of at that time. So this is an awesome opportunity.
So if I may,
go ahead.
If there's anyone out there listening, that you feel that God, is calling you to ministry, either as a missionary or church planter or pastor, and you don't know where to start, the best thing I can think of for you to start is come over and enroll at our school or any CBI. We have many different locations, but here in the Philippines, we're in Asia, we're in Southeast Asia, where the people are so ripe, as Ryan said, ripe for the gospel. You just talk to anyone, and most likely that person will accept the Lord.
Yeah.
So we're very ripe, and we people generally understand English and speak English.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna have a hard time. And come on, and we're inviting you.
I want to back that. It's like I was saying at the very beginning of the show, if you're just tuning in, that Philippines is there's some strongholds here. It's like, as you said, it's the gay capital of the world. So there's some strongholds here in Asia, but the harvest is ripe. Like, if you want to come here and get your hands dirty and get out and be with the people are awesome. I didn't know anything about the Filipino people. They are so cool, and you could talk to anyone, and that's the hardest part about ministry, is get a conversation going and be able to open up and talk to people. So this would be a perfect opportunity. It's awesome here. We're here. We love it. We're already working on trying to figure out how we can, get the whosoever's a Filipino version started here to help and piggyback and invade the schools. Amen. And even coming back here and continuing the work here. I travel globally, okay, guys? As you know, I'm global in all different countries. And here, there is some major opportunities, the fruit is, you just shake the tree and it just falls off. It's like that ripe. It's amazing. Amen. So, and here, you have the church planning, you have the discipleship, going through the word. Everything that you have is here. So I'd highly recommend this school. And I don't do that much with most of my interviews, but this is a thing that you should get involved with. where do they go to even find you guys on internet?
Yeah, we have a website for our church planting. It's called 222cmn.org. CMN stands for Church Multiplication Network. Again, that's 222cmn.org. And our Bible Institute is Calvary Bible Institute Luzon. That's spelled L-U-Z as in zebra, O-N, .org. Again, that's Calvary Bible Institute Luzon.org. That's our website for our Bible Institute. And may I give another invitation?
Yeah.
If you're a pastor listening or hearing this, and you want to do like a mission trip, I know churches like to do mission trips. I hope.
Oh, yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
you're a church that would
Yep.
like to do mission trips because it's a great way to expose your people. Come on over to the Philippines. We love mission trips. We love people come and visit us and partnering with us in ministry. And so we are excited about that. Every time we have a visitor, a guest, and maybe Ryan can talk to you how we treat our guests. We treat them like royalty.
It's awesome, and it is true. You should definitely look into that. And if for some reason, if you missed that whole the plug-in of the website, just contact the whosoevers.com. Contact us at our website, and we'll connect you via email. No worries. Just contact wherever we're at online, and we can make that happen. Okay, so we have 9 minutes left of the show, and I'd love to have you encourage people. Maybe there's some people out there right now that are, they're just trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life? I want to be used by God. How would you encourage them? What are some steps that they should do or that they can do that could put them in that place to hear God's voice, to find the call in their life?
You never asked. I love that question. Again, if you are listening or watching and, you have this, inkling, you have this stirring in your heart that God wants to move you, God's calling you into something to serve Him, and you don't know what it is, make that step of faith. I would encourage you, to come and enroll at our Bible Institute or any Calvary Bible Institute. It doesn't really matter. And you know why I say that is it's not because we want students here, because you're not going to lose anything. If you get trained in the whole Bible, in depth and in all ministries, all around ministries, and you get all these trainings, you meet different people, and you get immersed in a cultural environment. You're not, and you don't become a pastor, you don't become a church planter or a missionary. You don't lose anything.
Nope.
But you gain a lifetime of skills and training, and maybe back home you can be the one to encourage people to go. Yep. So again, that's the best thing I could think of to encourage anyone who may be being called.
Yeah, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Yes. And you'll grow as a person. It's only 1 year of life.
It's an investment in your life.
Even like young guys, even I mean, all ages or whatever, but even like people that just get out of high school and they're trying to figure out what to do, right? What am I going to do with my life? Leave your surroundings. A lot of kids, these youngsters are caught up in all this noise and distractions around screen time and their friends and all this stuff. If they just can leave and see what the world has to offer. A lot of them are like depressed and suicidal because they think their life stinks and they're just stuck in America just in this weird funk. Leave America. Come out here. See a whole new environment, and I guarantee things will change in your life and see what God has for you. Your life will be changed. I'm telling you right now, 100%. So also another thing is, what if there's someone here right now that's listening to the show and they've been listening and they're just struggling on faith. What can one do to increase faith in their life? Because they're like, man, I want to be used by God, but I don't know if I could do it. Maybe they're battling with fear and faith. Can you maybe speak into both of those, fear and faith, to someone that's listening?
Fear and faith. I believe that the best thing for a Christian to strengthen faith is just making that step. Even if you're doubting, just keep on moving forward, one step at a time, baby steps. Don't listen to those whispers from the enemy that no, don't do that or whatever. Just faith is really the definition of faith is trusting God. for things you do not see. Because if you can see things clearly, you don't need faith, right?
Yep.
And so, to increase your faith, you got to make baby steps of faith. Like in my story, I obeyed what God, I thought, was trying to call me to come back to the Philippines, leave everything behind. That was a huge step of faith.
That is huge.
But
huge.
But I didn't know what I was getting into.
Yeah.
But I had faith. It was a big step of faith. But you can make little steps of faith as well.
Yeah. No, that was a huge.
Like, for example, if you're being stirred in your heart, to come and check us out, or enroll, or maybe take a mission trip, a short term, or even by yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
If your church doesn't have a mission trip, we have people. Actually, you have someone here who just flew in from New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
Just for this week.
Right.
To help us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, and now he's thinking of living in the Philippines permanently because he loves it here.
Wow.
He loves to be part of our ministry. And so, you can come here by yourself.
Well, what about that? There's another girl that flew from
from another province.
From the south of the Philippines.
Right.
And she flew in just to come help out for the week.
Yes.
So just make a visit.
Yes.
Hey, that's what we did. We're here visiting, and we're like, okay, let's actually work on some more stuff.
Yeah, and when you come and experience ministry with us, or any ministry that's doing the Lord's work, your faith will increase.
Absolutely.
I asked Brian the other day when we were having a meeting, a fellowship with our CBI students. Orion, would you please share with us? I know God is using you in the supernatural. And one way to increase our faith, even though we do not experience personally the supernatural, is to hear from others.
Yeah.
And so we were blessed because Ryan shared a lot of stories about how God has used him in the supernatural.
The tour stories, just traveling around. Well, Jesus, we know this. I'm preaching to the choir here, but Jesus says, it said to the disciples, you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses. And it also says in Mark, when you go out and you're his witness and you preach the gospel, these signs and wonders will follow. The supernatural events will follow, confirming what is said. What is said, it's what we're saying about Jesus. So Jesus just confirms he is God by backing it up. And if you put yourself in the situation of doing missions and church planning and going out and making yourself available to be used by God, he will do these things. If not, he's a liar, but he doesn't lie. You will see God work powerfully, and God uses us all very uniquely. And I don't know who was sharing that the other day. It might have been you about one is the toe, or it was Jairus Hodge who's talking about one's the toe, one's the eye, but it's a body, and we all work together, and God uses us in our unique lanes. And you never need to get jealous of how God's using other people, because God uses everyone in their own unique ways, the way he designed them and the plans that he has for them. But that unit together, like the Spartans of like the movie 300, they were few, but they worked in a unit, and they would lock their shields, and they would have their swords on the right. And the way they were connected together, the enemy couldn't penetrate. And that's the way it is when you're in the Great Commission and you're doing church planning. Like you were saying, there's a target on your back. You need to be united in Christ, and locked arms, locked shoulders, having the spiritual armor on, and going to war, because you're going against the enemy. But what you're doing is you're setting the captives free through a relationship with Jesus Christ, is leading them to Christ, and then as they accept Christ, they receive the Holy Spirit, they receive the forgiveness of sins, and then they go from being planted on one side of eternity to the other. And that's what it's all about. Why? Jesus the King is coming. Jesus is coming any day now. The workers are few. The harvest is ripe, but the workers are few. So pray for the harvest. And that's it. We got 30 seconds left. Go for it.
It's interesting, because I wanted, as my last words, is to just encourage everyone about the last days.
Yeah.
We are in the last days. Actually, we are in the last few seconds, I believe, of human history. The Lord Jesus is coming very soon, and there's no time to waste. And that is why, I believe every Christian should be involved in church planting, because it is the most effective way to fulfill the Great Commission. Support church plant work. Pray for church planters. Get out there. Study at a Bible Institute. Support missionaries. Just go visit, even by yourself, organize in your church a mission trip. Just do something, because the Lord Jesus is coming soon. We cannot afford to just keep idle, and just be mindful of our own thing, our own selves. It's not about us now. It's been about us. It's about Jesus coming very soon. So let's get busy.
Let's get busy. I'm with you 100%. Well, I love you guys. Thank you for being tuning in every week with us. Again, go to Ryan Ries Official on my YouTube channel. Click subscribe. Get years and years of radio shows, all kinds of awesome interviews, artists, musicians, pastors, missionaries, human trafficking. I mean, everything's there. And we do a lot of questions and answers too. Those are always fun. I bring in like 4 different pastors, and it's like the Wild West, because you never know what you're going to get. But it's all available there. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.
This has been The Ryan Ries Show. To connect and find out more about Ryan, click on ryan-reese.com. Check us out next Saturday at 9 p.m. for The Ryan Ries Show.